Hi, this is the Happy Hour podcast. I'm Tom Arthur.
And I'm Tom Dando. Just a quick reminder that any views expressed in this podcast are not representative of Marling School or its subsidiaries.
I'm Tom Arthur. I'm in Year 7, so I can talk to you about anything from converting from primary school to secondary school or the early years of secondary school.
And I'm in Year 12, so I can talk to you about GCSEs, exam stress, and moving up in the world. So, bud, here we are, Happy Hour podcast. You know, it's Mental Health Awareness Week. Pretty important thing. I think it's really good that we're creating this podcast to talk to all of the students, talk to the world, I guess, about mental health.
So do I. So any questions they have, we can answer. We're going to talk about a whole range of things through school and exam stress. So
Exactly.
I'm really excited. Let's do it.
So if you want to be involved in the stream at the moment, which we are streaming live on Twitch, then you can get in chat at Marling_esport and ask us any questions you might have about school, exam stress, or just mental health in general.
Yeah.
So first thing I think we should probably talk about is exam stress. You know, it is getting towards the end of the year now. We are in term 5, I believe. So end of years. Have you had your end of years yet?
I have had a lot of end of years, and I think the key to them is just revising enough that you think you're prepared, but not too much that you're overthinking what the test is about.
Exactly. You know, in my past experience, I've always found that over-revising for a test can often lead to more stress. You know,
Yeah.
it is quite a difficult thing to manage. You know, the right balance of stress to revision to just kind of anticipation of maybe getting the exams over and done with, and obviously GCSEs, very big thing. You know, the first proper paper, I'm going to say proper, the first exam paper was today, and it was biology, I believe, for the year 11s. So you know, that's a pretty scary thing. Like a year ago, that was me. You know,
Yeah.
I was in those shoes, and I was terrified. But I feel like all you can really do is get a revision schedule sorted.
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. Revision schedules are key, because if you know what you're going to revise, when you're going to revise it, and you try and keep as strict as you can to a schedule, and even if that means missing going somewhere with your friends or doing something else, it's key to keep to that as much as you can to maintain that you're doing enough revision when you have to.
Exactly, and it is good to maybe put your education first in a lot of cases. You know, it is incredibly important. It does lead to a lot of, you know, exciting opportunities in the future, but it's so important to remember that you can take time to spend with your friends. You can take time to maybe mess around a bit, and it's going to be great.
Like you said, that balance of doing enough revision that you're keeping to schedule, but leaving enough space so you can enjoy yourself and not worry 24/7 about all these exams.
So with your end of years, did you revise enough, do you think?
I think I did revise enough. I found that, especially not being scared to ask, so asking my teacher about what might I revise, what might be the harder topics to revise, and asking other people about, can you help me with this, can you help me with that, really helped me develop how much I need to revise and what I should revise. That really helped me.
Yeah, so what did you think was the hardest paper for you?
For me, I thought the hardest paper was probably English, but that's really hard to revise. So I revised a little bit of spellings, and I did a few comprehensions, but I think I should have focused more on the comprehension side of things and just really developed my skills of answering those harder questions where you have to give multiple marks for the answer.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, in GCSEs, English is usually split up into literature and language, and I always found literature relatively easy to revise for. You know, it was laborious, as revision always is. You know.
Yeah.
But you could easily make mind maps. You could make flashcards revising different characters, different themes. Language was always the difficult one for me.
So what made language difficult for you?
It was just kind of the only thing you could really revise for it, because it was so different on the day. It was always a different paper, always a different kind of book that they would take an extract from. The only thing that you could really do for it was revise essay structure, revise like how to answer the actual exam paper, not necessarily content. And I think that's what's difficult for me, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the big thing, like revising some subjects are so much harder to revise for than others, but it's about working your way around that with, like you said, essay structures, or there's always stuff you can revise, but with easy subjects that are easy to revise for, like maths. You can just look back through your whole book and look at what your teachers taught you, look at the subjects you've learned, and then there's other websites and tools you can use to develop your strength in. But for harder things like English language, like you're saying, there's very few things you can do, so you need to specialise in those things to revise.
Yeah. I think the important thing is to remember, though, even if you don't find maths easy to revise for, that's perfectly normal. Like,
Yeah,
it's perfectly okay to find a particular subject or exam difficult. That's just part of being a person. You know, there are different strengths and weaknesses to everyone. But there is a question that we've got on chat at the moment. Are video games a good way to relieve stress? And I really do think that, yeah, of course they are, you know?
yeah, but I think they really are. But it's best to do stuff with other people as well. So even if that means like playing video games like with other people, then
Yeah.
it's so much more fun and so much like it's good to not be in your room all time like revising and then gaming, then revising and
Yeah.
gaming. Like going out a little bit or playing with your friends. You know, it's really good to keep up your social status and your social ability by with still keeping the revising.
Yeah, exactly. Fair enough. That's also a really good way to kind of keep up positivity. You know, if it's something you enjoy, go for it. You know, you are going through a really difficult time with exams. That is just normal for everyone. It's nothing to worry about. And if video games do make you positive, then
Go for it.
yeah, all the more to you. How would you say you kind of keep up positivity during the exam season?
Well, I think not getting hung up on one thing. So if I've done, say, I don't know, a science exam, then I got to say to myself, don't keep hanging up about like what questions you thought were hard, like, oh,
Yeah.
I wish I'd have done that, I wish I'd have done this. Just sort of move on and think about the next thing. And also, going back to what you said before, it's really easy for everyone has this where other people find other tests hard and you find other tests easy. And so like if you do a test and everyone else is saying, I found that really easy, I found that really easy, it's okay for you to find it hard because different people will find different things easier and harder. And it's good to also not get hung up on if I can't, why am I not as good as this as my friend, why am I better than him at this, you know.
Yeah. I mean, fair enough. One of the more difficult things for me during the GCSE exam period was coming out of an exam thinking like, oh man, I really maybe could have done better on that. A few questions I really faltered with, and just hearing like your best mate or someone say, I found that particular question really easy, and they say an answer that you did not get.
You just wish you just had it on the tip of your tongue, and
Yeah.
sometimes like you even write it down,
You're so
cross
close
it
to
out, put a new answer, and then everyone else says, oh, it was this answer and it was the first one that you crossed out.
Yeah, that is a really scary thing because there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
You know? And I feel like that's part of what you have to accept. You know, exams are always in the past. You're usually worrying about them more after the fact. Like, there's nothing you can do about them. Move on, kind of learn and take lessons from those particular exams, but don't worry about it too much, you know.
What do you think are your top tips for in the exam? Like during the exam, do you have any top tips to keep your stress levels down and to stay motivated? And what do you think about getting hung up on questions, like things like that?
The thing that I kind of did during the exam, if I saw a question that I was really going to struggle with, then I would move on. You know, I give a crack at it, but if I couldn't maybe get to it, or it was just kind of in my mind, but there was maybe like a block in the way, then I'd be like, okay, let's move on to the next question. If I get it and halfway through another question, I realize, oh my God, it's this. Then I can go back and I haven't wasted time trying to plow through a roadblock that I couldn't necessarily get through to begin with.
And to add on that, like if there's loads and loads of questions that are right at the end and you only got 5 minutes left and you're hung up on one question, like you said, move on. But also try and get an answer for every question.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
there's always, if you leave it blank, you're definitely not going to get a mark. But especially if it's multiple choice, there's a high chance that you will get it right if it's, is this A, B or C? If you just get an answer down, then there's a chance that it'll be right, better than just leaving it with no answer and then knowing that you got it wrong.
Exactly, you know, better to put something than nothing. Another thing that I found really crucial for revision, and I still do, and this goes for exams as well, is stay hydrated, make sure you've eaten enough. Water is so important, and I know that so many people are going to say this to like everybody watching, to you, to me. but it is true. Make sure you stay well hydrated because that water's going to keep you going, and especially in the really hot summers that we have around here. Sat in that stuffy exam room, it is going to be the place where a lot of people really suffer the most, and it's just important to take advantage of whatever you can, be that just a bottle of water or just anything like that.
being prepared just before the exam. So making sure you've eaten enough, making sure you've drunk a lot, so you're not going to be thirsty during the exam, but you're also not going to be like weeing yourself all the way through the exam.
Yeah, fair enough. Moving on to a revision a bit now. How did you revise for your end of years? Because I've got a few techniques that.
So there's multiple different techniques for different subjects, and I think one of the big things is not thinking, right, this worked for this subject, so I'll do it for that subject. It often does work, like especially if it's quite general tips, but you can't use one specific strategy on everything, because if you find one thing harder and you think, right, I didn't really revise for the thing I found easy, so I'm not going to revise for this, then you need to keep a different attitude for the different subjects that you're revising.
Yeah, I take graphics for A level, and I also take computing for A level, and those two vastly different subjects. I revise computing using index cards and flashcards, but graphics is definitely not gonna. The index cards might probably not come in use with that. Very different subjects always kind of suit different styles.
Yeah, so you're right about that flashcard thing. Flashcards are, a lot of people use flashcards and they're really, really useful. But like you said about graphics, it's often about doing and not like thinking about. It's about like actually sort of putting yourself, printing out an exam and having a go at a test exam, or like actually not thinking, oh, I'll do this online internet thing at some other time. It's about doing it then and there, and about really trying to do, not say or think. Just especially if it's like one of those things like graphics, it's hard to revise. Like, I don't know, but if it might be like harder to revise with other techniques than if you just practice.
It is, especially with graphics. You can't really revise for it. It's one of those things where you are a bit lost for words, lost for things to do in that case, because it's not a subject where you've got different content to memorize. It's something that you really have to sit down and get through, and especially in graphics, any progress is progress. So even if it's rethinking an idea, maybe it set you back a bit, but it's still progress. It's the same with revision, I find. If you found that a technique isn't really working for you, then you can simply go back. If you find a better technique, maybe it'll set you back a bit, but it's going to be way more beneficial in the long run.
Absolutely, with that 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Don't get hung up on something that set you back a little bit, like you're saying. Like if you've tried something and you tried it for like a few days and it didn't work, it's not about thinking, oh, none of this ever going to work. It's about having a positive attitude and thinking, this will work, like maintaining that growth mindset.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in, I think, the younger years, it's so beneficial to try these different revision techniques because you never know what's going to work for you. Especially, I think I kind of left it a bit late last year, so I didn't kind of start experimenting with different revision techniques until year 10, and I really found that index cards and flashcards work for me. So especially in computing and the different sciences, they were really beneficial. So, personally, I would recommend using those techniques because I think getting at least the base information down, that's going to score you a mark.
So, like you said, just to recap, like thinking about what different revision techniques actually way before your exam, so you can test them out and not think, right, this is sort of working, I'll stick with it. You have to test out like as much as you can, and then get your heart set on one thing that's really works for you. Yeah,
exactly. One thing that I have recently started using is the Flora app. I was recommended this by somebody else. It's a very simple revision app in its concept. You simply download it, set up an account, you can link it to Facebook, and you just set a timer. And as you progress through that time period, a tree will grow. And it's such a simple thing. It's just like a little graphical tree, and it means something. Like if you give up that time that you set yourself, it will tell you
make this something.
It will kill the tree. It will tell everybody that you've kind of failed, and failure can be like a good like it can kind of spur you on a bit. But I just find the Flora app really useful because you can try all these different trees, different plants, and everything, and it's really beneficial.
That sounds amazing. I'll have to try that out. I haven't heard of that before.
You certainly should. So I think we should take a little break now, and we'll get back to you with some more information in a moment.
See you after the break. Welcome back to the happy hour.
So we've just covered exam stress and revision, but I did kind of want to go more into the Flora app because, you know, it was very, very hurried. We were trying to get onto a break so we could get a glass of water, stay hydrated, as we mentioned earlier. So the Flora app, it is completely free, but you can also pay money. And I know this sounds like a very negative thing, but you can set yourself a certain amount of money before you begin your revision time. And if you fail, it actually takes it out of your bank account.
Ooh.
So it's kind of betting whether you can make it through revision. So it's really good to have that kind of extra motivation, you know. It's you're right there. It is, you know, a really positive thing to have a lot of motivation. It's something that I personally struggle a lot with, not really having the motivation to keep going. But I just thought it was a really, really interesting app to mention.
Especially with the harder like lengths of revision. It's good to have some motivation to just keep going. But also, yeah,
and as you go, you unlock different types of trees, which is always an incentive, you know, like unlocking new things. It works in a lot of stuff, and it's another one that I just got to unlock it all.
Absolutely.
So,
I think we're now going to move on to workload.
Yeah, you know, managing the workload, how we deal with homework.
Especially a lot of it.
Yeah, especially a lot of it. Again, if you want to drop in chat a question for us, we will be more than welcome to answer it.
Absolutely.
So, you know, year 7, you've definitely had to experience a ramp up in workload. You know, year 6, you maybe got one piece of homework a week.
I got no homework.
Oh,
no homework in year 6.
That's
so
a bit of change from me.
Now we're getting, in year 7, it is, like said, a big ramp up. But I think one of my tips is to split it up into little bits and try and not do, like, 5 hours straight of revision.
Yeah.
To, like, split it up into 30 or 40 minute and then a break to have a bit of new time and do what you really want to do and then come back to it and do it again.
I think that actually links to, like, the Pomodoro method, where you do maybe 25 minutes of work and then you have a 5-minute break of like me time, kind of relaxing, chilling, just kind of being yourself, doing the things that you want to do, and then go back to another 25 minutes, and you kind of repeat that for maybe like 4 times, and then you would have maybe 2 hours break to just do what you want to do, really be yourself. So
what does me time mean for you?
It definitely like just kind of chilling, just kind of lying on my bed, not really doing much.
Yeah.
Just really relaxing, being in the zone, maybe putting on some music, maybe playing a game. Just do whatever I feel like I want to do in the time.
Yeah.
So what about you?
Well, same sort of thing really.
Yeah.
Might do a bit of gaming or might do a bit of other hobbies that I'm interested in. But yeah, and I think splitting it into little bits actually does really help. It has like proven benefits.
Yeah.
Because it's also like, on a personal level, it's actually really hard to do a lot of revision in one big piece. You sort of think to yourself, oh, I've still got an hour and a half to do, or I've still got 2.5 hours to do. But if you're just thinking, right, I've only got 10 minutes left, I can do this, and then I've got a 5-minute break where I'm gonna do this or do that or grab a snack or have a drink, then it's really good to not have loads and loads of time bearing on you, thinking, got so much to do. Just you got a little bit to do, and then you get a break, and then you got a little bit more and a break.
Yeah, exactly. It's like kind of using decomposition on a problem. You know, if you say I have this essay to do, you know, that is a big task. You know, it might take a few hours. If you break it down into maybe I've got the introduction to the essay to do, then I'll take a bit of a break, and then I've got paragraph 1 of the essay. Really kind of breaking it down, just taking it step by step. It is a lot more manageable, and I do prefer it that way. You know, 3 hours of revision and then an hour of break, it's a lot more difficult to manage than maybe 25 minutes and then 5 minutes of break.
Yeah.
So, something that's really important to a lot of people is staying positive. You know, it's important to everyone.
It's important to everyone, and it also can be hard. There's a lot of different times where you can find it really easy to stay positive and find a lot of motivation, but other times where if you have a lot to do, it's hard to keep going. But there are apps like you were talking about, that Flora app, which
Yeah.
is really helpful to keep you motivated, and especially if you give yourself a treat. So like if you do if you do 20 minutes of work and then you allow yourself to do some gaming for a little bit,
Yeah.
then that can really like gift yourself inside. So you think to yourself, actually, I've done a really good thing here. I've done the work that I was supposed to do that I've been holding off for a while, which you shouldn't do.
No, no.
But I've done a little bit of work that I was supposed to do, and now I'm
It's
rewarding
like
myself.
a weight kind of rises off of your shoulders. It is really like just it's such a zen feeling knowing that you've completed a task that's been looming over your shoulders for such a long time. But I think that happiness and positivity, it's not just about work. You know, it is so important in education to kind of be able to stay positive, but it's not just about that. It's just about an everyday life. So, uh, so when you do kind of feel down, you know, everybody has those moments where they're not feeling 100%. Like, what would you do? Who would you go and talk to?
So I have a lot of people that I can go to. So I can go to like definitely my family and my close friends. So they're always there for me if I need a little bit of help, or any teachers as well. Any head
Yeah.
teacher, any teachers, any teaching assistants, pastoral office, anything like
yeah.
that is really good. If you need to just sort of take a break and have talk to someone who you know is gonna help you out and sort of give you that a little bit of motivation so you can keep going.
Yeah, you know, just kind of a nudge in the right direction is all it takes sometimes to really get into your next task, just to kind of rekindle that fire of motivation. Um, you know, there are a lot of different avenues, but I feel like nowadays there is so much pressure to be happy. Like there are so many people offering different alternatives. Like this is how you can be happy. This is what you can do. Sometimes it is important to remember that you are allowed to have those moments where you do feel down. You know, it's sometimes there aren't going to be quick fixes. Sometimes it's okay to just feel sad. It's okay to be yourself, and if that's who you feel like you are at that time, you know, seek advice, seek help whenever you can. But just remember that it's okay. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's completely fine to have those moments, but it's also really good to know that you can have those moments, but also know how to sort of deal with them.
Yeah.
So like we said, like it's okay to feel down, but then it's also great to think, can you help me? And also being having that little bit of confidence to go and tell someone, because it is hard if you're feeling down about an exam or something like that, an upcoming exam that's like the next day and you haven't done much revision for it. Then you can just go to someone and be like, actually try and have the courage to say, I haven't done much revision. Can you help me out a little bit? I'm lacking a bit of motivation.
Yeah, you know,
And
we've all been there.
Yeah,
you know?
we've all been there, and they're always happy. There's always someone who's happy to help. That's a big thing as well.
Yeah, that is so important to remember. So, kind of linking back to exams now, have you had a bad exam?
I have had a lot of bad exams.
I feel like we have all had a bad exam at one time or another. So, what would you do after a bad exam where you're not really feeling the best about it? Maybe you get the result back and it is really just not what you were expecting, you know? What would you do about that?
I think one big thing is not comparing yourself to others. So not thinking, oh, but this person, they always do worse than me and they've somehow beaten me. Oh, but this person, they've done this, they've done that. It's about thinking, looking at your exam and thinking, what could I have done better for the next exam? But not dwelling on the past, not thinking, oh, I did terrible in comparison to this person. But it's also okay to acknowledge it. You shouldn't just wave it away and think, oh, it was just bad luck.
Yeah.
You know, it's good to think, what can I actually do to improve my attitude or my revision timetable or whatever it is to make the next exam easier?
Yeah, fair enough. You know, even with GCSEs, even with the exams that are supposed to be considered like serious, I've had several bad exams. You know, most of the GCSE exams that I came out of, I thought they were an absolute shambles. You know, even last week I had a test. I came out of it, and I really did not think I did well, but I got the result back, and it was completely the opposite to what I expected. You know, I was really happy with it, and even if it is a test that maybe it wasn't what you're expecting, maybe it did go very poorly for you, that's a learning experience. That's what tests are. That's what school is. It's a learning experience for you to kind of analyze what you did wrong. Maybe you didn't revise. Maybe you revised the night before. Maybe it was just a particular technique that didn't work for you. That's where you learn from it.
Learning from mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes in
100%.
tests or anything in school. It's okay to make mistakes by actually like doing something that you didn't mean to do, but then learning from that and not just thinking, oh, I made a mistake. It's thinking, I made a mistake. How can I learn from that mistake to develop my own attitude and my skill?
Yeah. It kind of links back to that thing that we were saying earlier about GCSEs. The test is finished. There's nothing you can do about it now, especially with GCSEs. If it's a subject that, I did science at GCSE and I don't do sciences at A level, and I came out of some of the science exams and thinking I could have done so much to change that. And maybe I could have, But the important thing to remember was I was never going to sit that exam again. And I came out of the exam grateful, disappointed in myself because I felt like I kind of let myself down, but I was grateful that I'd put the effort in that I had, and that I pushed through it, even though it was something that I didn't necessarily want to do. I still pushed through it, and I came out way more positive on the other end of it.
And there are often things that you don't necessarily want to do, or think that you'll actually like it. But if it's beneficial to you, it's really good to actually just power through it and think, oh, there is this exam. I have revised, but I found it quite hard. And then it's to think, right, let's get through it and let's just do it. I'm sure it will help me.
Yeah.
Any test will benefit you one way or another, because if you get your results back and they're not very good, then you can look at the mistakes you made and maybe go back and think about how could I have made them better, or thinking maybe it's about the whole exam.
Yeah.
Maybe I went in stressful, or I hadn't had a drink before, or I don't know, I hadn't eaten enough. It's about being prepared, but also knowing what's beneficial to you. And even if you might not think it has a direct impact on how it will improve your skill, it often does later on, or a little bit later rather than immediately.
Yeah, fair enough. One thing that I really found beneficial at GCSE, and I still find beneficial today, is using an urgent, important, not urgent, and not important grid. Do you know what one of those are?
I haven't heard of them. Enlighten me.
So it's really simple. You just draw kind of a plus sign, a big plus sign in the middle of the page, and in one column you put important, another column you put not important, and then in one column you put urgent across, and then not urgent across, and then you divide all of your tasks into those different subsections. So urgent, important, urgent, not important, important, urgent, no, not important, urgent, and then not important and not urgent.
Yeah.
And that's a really simple way. So you would obviously tackle the urgent and important ones first, and you kind of work down the list that way. And I found that like a really beneficial way to kind of manage my time, because it really does build on top of you. That's what school's about, especially A levels. It will kind of pile on top of you, and that's a really good way to break it down, kind of manage your time that way.
There's another way for decomposition, like you're saying. So you can do the time, and then you can also split it into, like you're saying, not urgent, important, urgent. And then, like, there's other ways to split it up, because any way of splitting tasks up makes it easier.
Yeah.
And even if it's doing the time or doing that, they're always helpful to not have a big thing to do, or not think, right, how am I going to do this? It's to think, I've sorted it out, so now I need to do this thing first in short increments, and then this thing next, and planning it out, but planning it out really well.
Yeah, of course. So let's suppose that it's 24 hours before an exam. You have one day left before you sit that particular exam. How would you prepare?
So I think one thing not to do is to revise it all in one go. So even if you only have one day, it's to not do straight revision. It's to look at and think what you need to do and what is the most urgent things you need to do for that exam. So is it that you're happy with everything apart from one bit and you really need to focus on that? So it's doing that in little increments, but it's also like knowing that there might be a little bit that you are worried about, like not having done enough revision, but it's about So putting that behind you and just focusing on really what you need to do just before the exam. What are your top tips?
I always found that self-care was just as important, if not more so, than the actual revision. If I kind of let myself fall into this kind of hole of revision, 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 I kind of forgot what I had to take care of to do with myself. I forgot to eat properly, I forgot to drink properly, and that can really go downhill. Making sure that you eat enough and drink enough, it's so important. Making sure that you just do basic functions, it's so critical, and it will help you so much in the exam. And I feel like a lot of teachers kind of underestimate that. A lot of people underestimate the importance of self-care in general.
Yeah, so it's not just about the revision, it's about maintaining a balance of revision and self-care and preparation. So what would be the top tips you wish you knew at GCSE?
GCSE, I felt like I was quite prepared, I think. There were certainly things that I wish I hadn't done, for example, leaving an exam till the last minute. But if I had known the importance of a revision schedule, I know that now it's something that I've learnt from, and something that I found incredibly beneficial up to this day. I still use it, I still even enjoy it, which might sound a bit sad, but there we go. It's so critical to use revision schedules just in general, so important. So I would kind of, if I could go back in time, I'd make myself create a revision schedule way earlier.
But it's not just about thinking about doing it. It's about actually doing it and actually
Yeah.
sticking to the revision schedule. I mean, you can prepare all you like, but if you don't actually do what you said you would do for your revision schedule, then it's not going to benefit you. So you need to actually like focus on the revision schedule and not just think, right, I've made it. It doesn't really matter. Think I made it. Let's try and stick to it. But also maintain that self-care and social ability, like you're saying.
I think it is kind of important. Another thing that I wish I knew was like rewards. It sounds really simple, but it is something that a lot of people forget. You need to reward yourself because it is such a stressful time, and sometimes people might go overboard, but that's fine. It's just rewarding yourself for a job well done.
Yeah.
If you manage, even if it's something so unbelievably small, like it may even that you struggle to get out of bed in the morning, just rewarding yourself for that one thing, it can benefit you so much.
It all builds up. The little things all build up to a big self-esteem boost. But also another thing is not punishing yourself for bad things.
Yeah.
So just thinking, right, let me do this thing. I'm going to try and do 20 minutes. And if you do 15 minutes, you can't just wave it off. But you shouldn't punish yourself for it. You should just think about the growth mindset on how you can improve after doing that thing. Like, what did you do wrong? Oh, I should have had a longer break before it, or I should have had a little bit more sleep the previous night to help me prepare for this amount of work that I should have done. And it's about also, yeah, like you're saying, rewarding yourself for the good things, even just the tiny things. They all build up to make a big boost, and you don't think about it, but it really does. It really does build up and help you boost your confidence and all over help that self-improvement and awareness.
I think that's another thing that you just mentioned that is incredibly important, getting enough sleep. And this kind of ties into the whole self-care thing that I was on about earlier. Getting enough sleep is so crucially important, and I sometimes still forget this. I sometimes still stay up until 12 and then wake up really late the next day, kind of rush to school. And it's, as much as I enjoy sleeping in and getting things done, it's not very motivational. It doesn't lead me to have a positive outlook on the day. It doesn't lead to more motivation to do the jobs that I need to do. It may seem like I'm getting 8 hours of sleep, but sometimes it does just take a bit more.
And you might think to yourself, oh, I've done 20 minutes extra of revision, even though I've gone to bed half an hour later than I normally do. I've done an extra 20 minutes, but that can be a detriment to you.
Yeah.
The next day, you might think, even though I did 20 minutes, I'm really tired today, and I'm not working near as well as I would have done. If I'd have just had that extra sleep, then I would have been able to work for 40 minutes today extra with a break in between, rather than just 20 minutes yesterday.
Yeah, fair enough. I think a really important thing to kind of mention is to again, not punish yourself. You know, we're all human. We all make those mistakes. We all stay up a bit too late. We all wake up a bit too late as well, you know. Really kind of benefiting from not punishing yourself too much, seeing yourself as a person, you know. We all make these mistakes. We all need to learn from them, and that's just kind of what life's about.
Yeah, it's about learning from those mistakes. It's about keeping the positive attitude and the self-importance, but also maintaining that revision and what you know you need to do and different techniques you can use to develop the amount and the quantity that you're doing. Quantity, not quality, not quantity, eh?
Yeah, okay. So I feel like now we should go over some takeaways from this episode, you know?
Yeah.
So, what have you learned?
So starting with exam stress, I've learned a lot about how to deal with in the exam and after the exam. I used to worry a lot after the exam about I should have done this, I should have done that. But after this episode, I've thought, actually, it's about learning from what you've done wrong and not just punishing yourself that you've done it wrong. Thinking about an improvement that you could have made from what you did wrong.
Yeah, fair enough.
What have you taken away from exam stress?
The importance of self-care within, like, when you're stressing about it, yes, that can be all-encompassing, but it's important to not let it become all-encompassing. It's important to really take a step back, really kind of monitor your situation and look after yourself. You right there, bud?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, that's kind of what I learned. There are so many different methods to revision. There are so many different methods to self-care.
So moving on to revision, like you're saying, a takeaway I got was the Flora app that you were talking about, and that grid about urgent and importance. And I'm going to really try that for my next upcoming exams. I'm going to try a strong revision schedule, and I'm going to try the app and see. It might not work for me. It might. I have to test out everything, and while I still can, before 24 hours before the exam.
Yeah, fair enough. That's kind of what I took away from this as well, you know, especially with revision. Even though I'm in year 12, there are still so many things that I can learn, so many different revision techniques that I can try, and why not give a shot to them all?
Yeah, so workload. What have you learned about workload? The amount of work that you have to do. What if you have loads piling up?
Well, again, this kind of, for me, the importance of the urgent, important grid. It's important not to feel overwhelmed. Really break it down. That's kind of a point that really hit home for me. Break it down into those different segments, because it's so much easier to kind of deal with then. It's just so much easier to kind of tackle in those small workloads. My
takeaway from the workload was the self-importance thing. About often people do try and over-revise, like just a few hours before, or if you have loads of homework, they try and overdo it all in one go. But I think what I took away is maintaining that you do need to keep up self-importance and talk to your friends, talk to your family, and take breaks to make sure that you're not only doing the revision that you need to do, or homework that you need to do, but maintaining a self-awareness, importance, and respect.
Yeah, I feel like we should kind of conclude this. You know, we've reached a very positive point, and let's just go over a few different kind of housekeeping rules. You know, if you are struggling with anything, then you're more than welcome to visit any of these kind of links or sites, or just take any of the advice that we will have showing on screen momentarily. There will be links in various places that you can look at that.
There are so many places you can look for. Even if it's not serious, there's like other places you can go for. So questions. Any questions that people have? Yeah.
Yeah. If there are any questions, you are more than welcome to ask us them, and we will answer them next week or whenever the next episode is. So there are some other podcasts that we have going on at the moment. We obviously have the live streams going on every lunch, where you can catch up on the Rocket League tournament we have going on. We do also have the Bulletin Board, which is a podcast run by myself and Ben Williams, where we go over all of the nerdy and geeky news from the week. I personally love it a lot. You know, it's great fun. It's one of those examples of things which is like kind of me time, kind of something that you just really enjoy.
Hopefully, there's something for everyone here.
Hopefully there is.
Hope you've taken away something.
Yeah, really. if you do enjoy the podcast, you're more than welcome to share it, and you should be able to find it on Spotify or anywhere else that you get your podcasts. So we have an Anchor link, which it should be on Anchor, anchor.fm/happy hour podcast. Is that correct? Yep. Visit it there. We also have a live debating podcast, hopefully coming out tomorrow, which you can tune into live. It should be great fun. I will personally be tuning in. This is one of the few things I'm not actually on. So
I will also be tuning into that, I'm sure.
Again, final tips, because it is Mental Health Week. There are so many ways that you can kind of look at mental health, and it's really important to take any way for you to feel positive, happy during exams. The weather is gorgeous recently. I personally will be taking full advantage of that, not just sat in this room.
Yeah, me time. Part of the me time is doing other stuff outside and other things that really help you, and not just staying in your room all the
Exactly.
time.
So yeah, I guess that wraps it up from us.
Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much for watching and listening. You'll still be able to catch us on Twitch, streaming live, hopefully. And you can also catch us on the podcast. So that's bye from me.
That's Tom Dando and Tom Arthur. Out.